Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of our Revelation Space podcast. I'm Kaylee.
And I'm Trevor, and welcome back to Chapter 11. Okay, so Fazil is explained to Fazil is explained to Curry, who is actually like a programmed memory by the Mademoiselle. So it's really the Mademoiselle telling Curry why Dan Sylveste needs to die. And she does this by explaining to her what they call the Dawn War. The Dawn War basically describes how, before humans, 1 billion years ago, the galaxy started teeming with life, and one civilization came into conflict with another civilization, and they started to fight each other. Eventually, many civilizations started popping up, and they all picked sides, and they had a big all-out war, which eventually ended with just one victor, or a coalition of victors that turned into one entity, where they ditched their organic bodies and became a machine substrate species. And they are called the Inhibitors.
So Sylveste gets an hour to see Pascal again. And when he sees her, he sees that she's in overalls, barefoot, really, it's like looking sleep deprived even, not looking great, right? And Sylveste is like, wow, you're the best thing I've seen. And then Pascal falls for it and wraps her leg around him, and then you know what, and they do you know what, and it's awful. Anyway, intimate moment they shared. Really great. And then they start talking. Once they're done, they start talking about how Sylveste tells Pascal about how there might be visitors, the rumor that he heard, and so they're like, where, who, when?
And they start speculating on who the visitors might be. And one of their things is, well, maybe it's Romillion, the last Ultra that visited the system. Like, they'd stop by with the ship, they traded for things with them, but they're like, it's a little bit early for him to be making the rounds again, so who could it be? I think we know who it is. Alright, we're back with Triumvir's small Volyova, and she is trying to stop the cash weapon from blowing up a whole planet. And how she's doing that is she's trying to activate a system called Palsy, and that's pretty much where she just shuts down the ship, kind of like putting the ship into a temporary coma. But she's locked out of it for whatever reason, it's not working, so she has to find another way to figure this out. So we jump over to Curry, and she gets done with having her vision that the Mademoiselle implanted to kind of, because remember, this vision was to convince Curry to not stop her from using the cash weapon. And so afterwards, Curry is kind of swayed, but she still has the morals not to want to blow up a planet. So she still resists the Mademoiselle, and the Mademoiselle keeps trying to talk her out of it. And this is when she sees Volyova drift into the frame. She drifts out, and we see it's a long tube thing with 8 legs. Okay, so she pulls out the spider room, and she actually attaches the spider room to the cash weapon, and her plan for that is to use the thrusters of the spider room to push the cash weapon into the flame of the Nostalgia for Infinity, blowing it up by pushing it basically into the exhaust. And this is going well for a while, but her ship gets stuck, the spider room gets stuck, and she's looking like she's gonna go into the drive plume with the weapon. But what Curry does is she uses the point defense cannons to shoot the spider room off of the cash weapon at the last second. And so the cash weapon drifts into the exhaust, explodes, and the spider room drifts away and gets blown away. So maybe Volyova lived, who knows.
Alright, transitioning into chapter 13. So Curry and Volyova are talking now. Volyova is the one that woke everyone else up on the ship, correct?
Yeah, everyone else was in cryo sleep.
Alright, so now they're all awake, and Volyova's just reflecting on Nagormi, thinking maybe it wasn't just some crazy guy, but an actual problem and she just ended up killing him. And now with Curry, it's not just a repetition, it's the problem again, and now this time she might actually be figuring out like what exactly is going on, is what she was saying.
So what Curry tells her is actually Curry continues to lie, because Volyova goes, I know that you're an infiltrator. And Curry goes, actually, I am an infiltrator, but it's because there's a rival crew of Ultras that want to steal the cache weapons. So she just pulls the cache weapons out, and they're like, yeah, they wanted to steal those. And that's kind of plausible, because who wouldn't want planet-killing weapons? And she says that Stun Stealer is actually a program that the rival crew of Ultras put on the ship, and they actually snuck it aboard with Sylveste, which isn't far from the actual truth, that Stun Stealer got aboard with Sylveste. She just isn't telling her that she's an alien, or that Stun Stealer is an alien, and that she is here to kill Sylveste. Because if she told her that she was there to kill Sylveste, well, that would ruin her mission. So right now, Volyova just thinks, okay, she's an infiltrator, but maybe since we foiled her plans, things should be good. So there's no risk to Sylveste, because she doesn't know that her mission is to kill Sylveste. Volyova's on the bridge with Higazi, and she's actually waiting for Sajaki to check in. Sajaki is doing reconnaissance on the planet, and what they use to keep in contact with him is they're in orbit, right? And so they have telescopes, high-powered telescopes. And so what they do is Sajaki, after collecting reconnaissance, goes up to the top of a mountain, stands there, and then talks into the sky. And then what they do is they point their telescope at him, pick up what words they pick up a recording of his mouth, and they can't hear him, right, but they can see his mouth, and so the computer uses programs to parse out what he's actually saying. And so he's basically just talking to them through just his mouth moving on the planet from really far away. So that's a pretty cool concept. And what Sajaki has to say is, they've located Sylveste. So without any sort of radio communication, he's still getting his message, and his message is about the political climate of Resurgum. And that pretty much is that there's a bunch of factionalism, there's a bunch of attacks on cities, and so there's no main government to negotiate with, so it seems that they're going to have to implement a broader pressure on the colony as a whole.
So Sylveste is talking to Sluka, and Sylveste starts confessing what he already confessed to Pascal, which was his kind of secret that he didn't want anyone to know, really.
And while they're interrogating him, they pretty much want him to come clean. They're like, okay, well, we saw something blow up in space, and so we know that there's a light hugger on the way. What can you tell us? And he goes on to say that, yeah, if these people who I think they are were pretty much boned, because they're the ones with those planet-killing weapons. And then she drops on them that actually they're already here, and we know that. We know they're already got Sajaki, the infiltrator, on the planet.
So they introduced some new characters with different characteristics, like aquatic features or the Catwoman, and basically saying kind of like an overview of like, oh, some of them were born on different planets, some of them or ships, and sent to different places to train, basically. So Volyova and Curry are having a conversation, and they mention how kind of everything feels a little off ever since Curry told Volyova that lie, which Volyova believes is true.
And so they're going to basically do some training games with suits to go on that mission to go rescue, or not rescue, but kidnap Sylveste. And so it's a combat mission, and so they're doing some training for it. And Curry wants to be in on that training, except they're like, well, why do you need to be on this training? You're not going down with us. And she's like, well, might as well do some training, get some training in, even if I'm not coming down. And they're like, I guess fair enough. But when they get into the chamber, there seems to be some open hostility between Curry and Sajaki.
So now it's Curry and Sajaki having a conversation. Sajaki tells Curry how she doesn't like her because she doesn't like Volyova. And so because she doesn't like Volyova, she doesn't like any of Volyova's kind of important people, such as Curry. Volyova is the one in charge of the training right now, and the people training are Curry and what's the other?
Suzik and also Kirval.
Yeah, a new character. One of the new characters that they introduce. So they're going through this kind of simulation. It's not actually real. They're not really supposed to be taking damage or anything, and there's no real kind of like scenario. It's just like a fake made up one that Volyova made for training. But basically, they're all in like suits and they all got like different mods and stuff, and it's really cool. And
the suits are kind of like all-purpose, how should we say? The suits are pretty much like all-purpose weapons, platforms, healing, camouflage. It does everything. It's like an amorphous blob. And whenever like they get shot, they'll have the machines in the suit start healing them. These suits can be see-through. The suits can sprout weapons on them at any point. They can they have thrusters, flying capabilities, morphing capabilities. They have
the
everything.
Camouflage as well.
The camouflage, they can just be see-through or match any environment. Curry thinks that she sees the mademoiselle for like half a second, which is like, I haven't seen her in months because I think she's been fighting Sunstealer, which may or may not be in my head right now. The simulation goes okay until Curry and Kirval and Sajaki all launch their AKM pulses, which are like antimatter beams. Now, they're not real simulated, but it's a big explosion. They're thrown against the wall. Curry loses a limb, again virtually. It's just her brain being told she's missing a limb. It seems that the simulation's pretty much about over, but then she sees a suit approaching, and she doesn't know if it's one of the enemy suits or if it's one of her teammates. The comms are down. She doesn't know what to do until they start firing at each other. And Curry's trying to get away. Volyova comes down. She's like, "Hey, stop shooting. Something's going wrong." It's Kirval who is shooting at Curry, and Volyova pretty much goes down. When she can't get her to stop, Volyova basically dismantles the suit, and by doing that, dismantles Kirval, killing her. And we don't know why Kirval decided to attack Curry, because she's not the one who had beef with Curry. I mean, allegedly, I guess. We didn't have a reason. She was fighting with Sajaki. But I guess we'll never know because she's dead.
That's messed up. You didn't have to add that part.
That's fine. But now you know what that means. That means that they have a spot opening up on the expedition team. Guess who's going down surface side? I guess it's pretty good that she got her training in. Curry's going down to the Resurgum expedition. But that's not this episode. That's next episode, or maybe, I don't really remember.
Come back next time for some more cheesy writing and a very predictable ending. Thank you.
You didn't mean that.